Hi everyone, Comic Book Reviewer here. This time reviewing on the film Venom Let There Be Carnage. Now, as you know, Venom Let There Be Carnage is a 2021 superhero film that is meant to be a sequel to the 2018 film Venom, which I did cover. And I think after picking up the second film, the best I can say is that it's making the same mistake that I think Venom, as well as the DC film that I covered, Black Adam, doing the same mistake that I think both their anti-hero films did, is copying too much from the same thing. So the premise of the film is meant to feature how some time has passed after the first film. We see how Eddie Brock is now kind of back on the top of his game, where thanks to him and the Venom symbiote, they were able to kind of find where Cletus Cassidy hid a sort of large stash of bodies, and pretty much after Cletus Cassidy gave him some clues and hints, they were able to work it out. And of course, this is also where we're going to see how Eddie Brock kind of realizes the things that are going wrong with his life. Like, obviously, the symbiote wanting to eat more bodies, and we kind of see how Eddie Brock has to sort of use chocolate and chickens and other things as other sort of substances. And we see how his ex-fiancée Anne tells him that she's getting engaged to Dr. Dan, much to both Eddie and the Venom symbiote's dismay. And obviously, this is where it's going to kind of have the both of them falling out and separating. And this is going to have Cletus Cassidy gaining the Carnage symbiote after Venom sort of attacks him, which kind of leeches another symbiote onto him. And this is where I think a lot of the film seems to be taking other elements from some things. Like, obviously, yeah, Eddie wanting a normal life, and him and the symbiote sort of separating reminds me a bit of Spider-Man 2, where it's gonna have Peter sort of not wanting his powers anymore, and because of the stress and pressure, sort of affects him. And yeah, I think when you do have, say, Patrick Mulligan, obviously his character in this film feels more like George Stacy, but a bit more like a police officer with a bit of a sort of stern attitude. And I think when you do have Cletus Cassidy, I think at least they make his character kind of like this cold-blooded killer. But I think when you also do have his love interest, Francis, I kind of think the problem is, yeah, and this is where I think I'm going to agree, this feels like this kind of makes them like the original Harley Quinn and Joker. And I also know, yeah, in the comics, Carnage and Shriek were meant to be lovers. But I think the problem is, I think the film does take a little inspiration too much from the sort of Batman media with Joker and Harley Quinn falling in love. And I think the film just seems to be taking other elements from the other two Spider-Man films. Like, yeah, when they do seem to battle in a church, this does remind me a bit of the final battle in Spider-Man 3. Just replace Venom as the hero and Carnage as the villain. And I think the problem with the film is that it doesn't really try to build anything massive, big, or interesting. It just feels like another short kind of superhero or anti-hero film. And I think the problem is a lot of anti-hero films do make the same mistakes. They seem to copy too much from the same film. And I think, obviously, yeah, we're going to kind of see how Eddie's going to have to kind of accept that new challenges are going to come, there's going to be new problems. And I know, yeah, there is going to be a third Venom film in development. So I'm hoping that they're going to sort out the runtime. I'm kind of hoping they're going to do something better with the next villain. I think while Cletus Cassidy isn't a great villain, I think they at least keep his cold, dark persona intact, and showing how dangerous, how violent, and sort of more bloodthirsty he is when he has a symbiote. We know that Eddie Brock is going to sort of try to keep the Venom symbiote under control. And I know with Spectacular Spider-Man, had there been a third season, I know Carnage was going to be the main villain and was going to have Eddie Brock having his own redemption story. And I think that's the way I kind of also see Spectacular Spider-Man. Well, yeah, there are elements of Eddie becoming almost like Cletus Cassidy, and I think had there been a third season, this would have probably have left Eddie shocked and even ashamed of how close he would have became something like Cletus Cassidy. I think, well, yeah, Let There Be Carnage isn't the greatest. I think it just feels like it should have been something a lot better, something good, something interesting. But I think this film definitely deserves thumbs down. Well, not the greatest one. You can tell they were trying to sort of do something new that just didn't feel interesting. So, Comic Reviewer here, signing out.